but I would.
All right.
It's okay.
We're gonna go.
It's all right. There's nothing I can do
think you
about it.
just disclose it.
I'll just
and-
disclose it.
Yeah, don't you think, Chris?
Yeah, just disclose
Just disclose
Okay.
it, and, you know.
We're getting there, Bonnie.
If some member
I'm ready.
says no, then you have to have a discussion, but.
That's fine.
The day,
Okay.
All right.
the day with the positive.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I think it'll be
it is 4 minutes after 6. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and I would entertain a motion to appoint myself as chair, as Dr. Lathrop, who is the chairman of Ways and Means, and Dr. Johnson, who is the vice chair and is on his way in the snow and on a highway, is not here. We need a chairman to just simply run the meeting. So I would entertain a motion to appoint me as chair.
I would move to appoint Christine Max Bauer as chair of this meeting for this
Support.
evening.
Moved by Commissioner Crawford, supported
I
by
can vote no just for the fun of it,
Commissioner
right?
Klaus. Yes, you can.
Whatever, Sonny.
All those in
trouble this
favor
early.
say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. All right, Bonnie, roll call, please.
Klaus,
Here.
Crawford,
Here.
Johnson is not
He's on his
yet.
way.
Kropa is excused, Lathrop is excused, Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Max Bauer.
Here, and I would ask everyone now to rise for the pledge, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is approval of our January 20th, 2016 minutes. Are there any changes? Hearing none, those minutes stand approved. This is our first opportunity for public comment. Bonnie, if you would read the rules, please.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Is there anyone wishing to step forward regarding, and make public comment? Please step forward.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jay Zelenak, 255 Midtown Drive. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I submitted a letter requesting the Commission reconsider its recent decision to expand the bell tolling at the courthouse to a 24-hour basis. And I did have an opportunity to speak to several commissioners, and at least one of them suggested it'd be a good idea to come and make a public comment, and so I'm here tonight. And I thank you for that. I don't want to repeat what I've said in the letters and the emails. I brought tonight as exhibits a copy of the letter. 37 neighborhood residents have signed that. At this point, that's expanded from the time I emailed it to the Commission. At this point, obviously we're in February. This was a recent decision to expand to a 24/7 basis. Obviously, in the neighborhood right now, we have our windows closed, and I'm sure there are some snowbirds out of town. But I think you can see from the letter, certainly from myself and those who've signed that, it's already a nuisance for us. It disrupts our ability to sleep. The bell's a nice amenity. I've given the commissioners as exhibits a copy of the county's own peace and quiet ordinance, which really talks about the peace and quiet, the importance of having peace and quiet in your home and your residence. And it really specifically talks about, the time of day as being a factor. Also, I've given a copy of the Traverse City ordinance, noise ordinance, and that also has numerous references to 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. as being times not to operate heavy equipment and this type of thing. As noted in my letter, I think this is predominantly an issue of being a good neighbor, being a good responsible property owner. I think that if the commission looked at this through the lens of their own property ownership and the neighborhoods in which they lived, if they were asked to stop an unnecessary overnight noise, they would respond to a neighbor by reducing or eliminating that noise. And we'd ask for the same consideration here. I think that I've identified parts of the county ordinance by underscoring, and also the city ordinance. The city ordinance talks about, there are some discussions of decibel levels for residential and commercial area and that kind of thing. I believe that the report that the commission got from John Syke indicated that the bell tolls at 70 decibels, which is fairly loud. And there's some comment that that's compliant with the city's noise ordinance, and I certainly got the impression that was the commission's intent, was to comply with the city's noise ordinance. Great, I'll wrap up quickly, I appreciate it. Thank you. The city's noise ordinance, though, does talk about different categories of things, some necessary activities, and I think that's very distinguishable to have a snowplow or a fire truck or a police car operating where you have to have those, obviously, or an ambulance, versus an amenity or a musical type of sound. And the city's ordinance on music, radio, drums, and other similar sound-producing device, in other words, musical sounding things that are for enjoyment but not for a purpose, talks about if it being a violation if it's plainly audible on a property or of another. This is very clearly plainly audible on our property and at night, and we're certainly not suggesting the bell leave. It's a wonderful amenity, particularly during the day hours, somewhat limited, I think you could suggest limited to the court hours, but what I've suggested is 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. to not have the bell tolling. And, really my question would be, what is the upside to having a bell tolling at 3 in the morning? And if any is identified, how does that outweigh a neighbor's right to be free of disruption in the middle of the night? So with that, I would ask that the county, and I don't know if this is something, like I said, I was advised it might be a good idea to come to a public comment at a committee. I don't know if this is something that I need to make a request to get it formally on an agenda, or what, if there's anything, other steps I should take. I certainly appreciate the input. Other than that, thank you very much for your time tonight, and I respectfully request that you can reconsider the decision and limit the time. Thank you very much.
Would anyone else care to make public comment? Please step forward.
My name is Eric Gerstner. I live at 413 Webster, just almost right across the street. And I heard that we would have a chance to comment on this. And it is the bells, once they started ringing all night, it does truly wake us up, wakes me up, wakes my daughter Annie up. And I love them during the day. And I don't mind them at 10 at night. I don't mind them at 6 in the morning because I'm up then. But at midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it doesn't wake me up every hour on the hour. Otherwise, I would have been on the phone calling every one of you every hour. But it's routinely in the night where I will wake up to those bells. So it is very disruptive to sleep. Once again, I love them during the day. And I was very supportive of getting them going again after their long absence. But the extended hours, hasn't been a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Please.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Commissioners. Charlie Kern, 283 Midtown Drive. I have an interest. I brought some scientific articles. As an anesthesiologist, and not scientific, I know when I woke up a number of nights ago at 3 a.m. to the bell, I stayed awake till 5 when I normally go to work. Going to work and not an ideal situation with 5 hours sleep. I know the Newmans that live over here have a grandchild that wakes up when it comes by. The Olsons, he goes to bed at 3 in the morning as a chef, and then he can't get to sleep once the bells get on going. Anyway, my son was here, and he's a good sleeper, and he said, "What's up with these bells?" And because they hadn't been ringing for 8 years since we had been down there. I pulled these scientific articles from the World Health Organization, 30 to 40 decibels. There are a number of effects observed on sleeping, awakening, sleep disturbances, and arousals. 40 to 55 decibels, it's increased. At 55, which these are audibly at our neighborhood over here in Midtown and those in Washington and these other streets, 55, it's increasingly dangerous for public health. Adverse health effects occur frequently. A sizable portion of the population is highly annoyed and sleep disturbed. There's evidence of risk of cardiovascular disease increases. More recently, the World Health Organization has talked in terms of disability-adjusted life years lost to these environmental noises are very, very high. Other factors associated with the noise are ischemic heart disease, which they talked about 61,000 of these disability-adjusted life years. Also, tinnitus, which is ringing in the ear, and cognitive impairment in the children from sleep deprivation. Studies have clearly shown, I brought another article, of up to 3.5 to 5 people percent are with these bell ringings at this decibel range have EEG awakenings, even if they're subconscious, and that also showed in this study correlation to decreasing life expectancy. So our bell was initially at a lower level. The decibels jumped, according to my information, because someone didn't think it was loud enough. For those of us that are close and it's annoying, I respect the people that like it during the day. No one that says I like it 24/7 has given one good reason. They need it at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning on the half hour. Those of us who don't like it, it's a problem and it's a health hazard. The old system was a counterbalance system. This is not historic in regards to it has an electronic trigger. So they didn't have that 100 years ago. I appreciate my neighbors who have babies, grandchildren, those of us with guests. There's been some tourist complaints, and those of us who are trying to work and make a living. Maybe if I was retired it wouldn't be an issue. I can sleep later, but thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Doctor. Anyone else? Please.
Hi, my name is Michael Ullman. I expected to see the other council here. I've never seen you guys here before. I guess I've only been here 2 years or so. But I actually live on 261 Midtown, which, like Dr. Kern, is line of sight from the bell tower. And, my wife's a physician as well at Munson's Hospital, and she certainly has not appreciated the extended hours since the since the changeover of a couple weeks ago. So, and I'm actually surprised how loud it is, because I often work late at night, because I work primarily at home and out of town, how loud it is at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So, like most issues, if it bothers some minority that is in some level infringing upon their rights, and there's not some health safety issue for why you have to have it, then it would seem like a lot of the things in town, the bijou lights, the this, the that you have to, satisfy those that are being bothered by it. So, and especially since it hasn't been on, it seems. Again, I've only been here a little bit. Seems like it was broken for a decade. So having it run from 7 to 11 seems plenty of time enough. Everybody has watches these days, so I don't think anybody has to, use it as a functional clock anymore. I personally would like a town crier instead of a clock, because that would maybe employ more people. But anyway, but I do live across the street. My wife, who is at the hospital right now working as emergency room consult, can't be here, so certainly speak for her, and a fair amount of the residents on Midtown. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make public comment? Please.
My name is Barbara Olson, and we live at 417 Webster. My husband is Paul Olson, who was earlier referred to as being disrupted by the bell. We too enjoy it during the day. It's a lovely, very sweet, small-town noise to hear, but overnight it is quite disruptive. We have 2 children, 2 teenagers, who we all know need their sleep, and without sleep they get even grumpier. So it would help us all a lot if we just decreased the overnight bell ringing and continued on with the day ringing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to make public comment? All right. We will move on to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes from commissioners or staff to the agenda? I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Crawford. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. We have an agenda. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. Bonnie, if you would, please.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file, none. B, approval, Grand Traverse Sheriff's Office property room surplus.
Would any commissioner like anything removed from the consent calendar? Staff? Any member of the public? Seeing none, is there a motion, please?
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the consent calendar as provided.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Klaus. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Next on our agenda is a special order of business, and I'm just going to read it. A public hearing is scheduled for 7:30 p.m., and that is when the public hearing will begin, regarding combining the offices of County Clerk and County Register of Deeds. So I'm just letting everyone know that that will take place at 7:30. Let's see. Items removed from the consent calendar, we have none. Next is department action items. Planning and Development. Mr. Syke, if you would, please.
Good evening, John Syke, Planning and Development Director for Grand Traverse County. What I'm presenting to you this evening is an extension of a sub-recipient agreement between Grand Traverse County and Venture North. And this is for the revolving loan fund program. These are the community development block grant funds that were part of the revolving loan fund that used to be part of the county's EDC, but in 2014 was an agreement with the state of Michigan, the county, and Venture North to relocate that fund to Venture North for the purpose of providing funding and financing for businesses that are creating jobs in Grand Traverse County in the region. So this is basically an extension of that agreement. That agreement expired, and the state has allowed us to, afforded us some time to get this agreement in place to extend it to October 31st, 2018. The fund has been operating, in our estimation, it's been very productive in terms of creating jobs. There was one project that has been closed already that was created 14 jobs. There's one that's on your agenda tonight that will, if it goes forward, will provide 5 jobs within the community. And in the memorandum, you can see that there are some in the pipeline. There is not enough funding available right now in the fund to fund all those projects. But there is an opportunity potentially with the state of Michigan as it's looking to reallocate some of the other community development block grant funds that are within other communities that are not performing. The state is looking at taking those back and reallocating to those that are active. I think our agreement with Venture North has been successful to the point where I think some of these pipeline projects go forward. The remaining of that fund balance will be used, and there's an opportunity to actually add additional community development block grant funds to that revolving loan fund through the state of Michigan.
Are there any questions for John? All right, I'm going to make a motion to approve the amendment to sub-recipient agreement between Grand Traverse County and Venture North Funding and Development, and further authorize the chairman of the Grand Traverse County Board to sign the agreement effective immediately. Is there support?
Support.
Discussion. Roll call, please, Bonnie.
Crawford,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Klaus,
Yes.
Max Bauer.
Yes. Motion carries. John, you have the floor again regarding the Kajaras Bridge.
Yeah, this is the application to the Regional Revolving Loan Fund from Kajaras Bridge, which this was an item that was in front of the board a couple weeks ago regarding the application and going through the public participation process, which is required because this fund is utilizing community development block grant funds. The project is for a loan in the amount of $175,000 to be used for 5 full-time positions over the course of 2 years. Kajaras Bridge is a local company that is setting up operations in Grand Traverse County for food production in terms of providing some of their food products. This is a application that's in front of you. This is required to have the county board approve the resolution to authorize the submission of the revolving loan fund application. It will go to the Michigan Strategic Fund Board would be the next step in terms of getting the approval.
Okay. Commissioner Crawford?
So I need to disclose that in my regular job, I'm an accountant, so I do accounting work, and I have worked on the financial statements for this particular company. So just needed to disclose that before I go ahead and vote on this.
And I am going to make a motion to approve the resolution to authorize submittal of the revolving loan fund application for Kajaras Bridge. Is there support? And this is going to be for immediate approval. Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Max Bauer, supported by Commissioner Klaus, and I want everyone to understand that this needs, if this is going to go forward, this needs to have the support of the majority of commissioners elected and serving. And right now, we have 4 commissioners here tonight. And so if this does not pass unanimously, this does not move forward. And I greatly appreciate Commissioner Crawford's disclosure and for everyone's understanding of the importance of her vote this evening. So with that, I will, Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I guess the comments that I would make, number one is, this board for a long history has supported everything we could with community development block grants to bring jobs to our community. And I think this is another opportunity to do that. I'm very sure that with Commissioner Crawford's disclosure, there is no personal benefit to her for this to go forward, so I don't see where there's any conflict of interest. If she was directly connected to the company themselves, that's another discussion, but the fact that she does some accounting services for them is certainly not a conflict of interest.
And I would note that she has spoken with Civil Counsel regarding this. So with that, I'm going to call for a roll call, Bonnie.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Klaus,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Max Bauer.
Yes. Next, thank you, John.
Yep, thank you.
Next on the agenda, finance, budget adjustments. Jerry.
I'm asking that the board approve the budget adjustments that are on, you find it in the packet on page 25 through 27, excuse me. And I can help answer any questions if you have any.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I would move that the budget adjustments as outlined by the Finance Department be approved.
I'll support. Questions, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. We have no unfinished business. We have new business, a resolution of support to stop the transportation of oil under the Great Lakes. This would be me. In the 9+ years that I have served on the county board, I have never brought a resolution like this in front of the county board for consideration. However, I worked for an oil company for 30 years, and I know the difference between an oil spill in freshwater versus saltwater versus dry land. And I really do believe that, I mean, this pipeline is 62 years old. That's how old I am. And I'm not going to last forever, and neither is this pipeline. So I am going to ask for the board's approval for the resolution in your packet that opposes the pipeline. It's referred to as Line 5. Is there anyone who wishes to make public comment on this item before we talk about it here at the board? Please step forward.
Hi, good evening. My name is Liz Kirkwood, 861 Washington Street. I'm a resident of Traverse City, also Executive Director of Flow for Love of Water. And we are a Great Lakes Water Law and Policy Center. We're delighted to see Commissioner Max Bauer bring this resolution before you. On February 1st, the city of Traverse City just passed a similar resolution, and I wanted to share some very exciting news this evening that the Mackinac Island City Council just passed a resolution to shut the flow down of oil in Line 5 pipeline. This is a huge and tremendous statement on their behalf. I just wanted to share with you a couple of the kind of primary reasons why this really makes sense for local governments to voice their opinions. If the county adopts this resolution, you will be the 22nd local governmental entity in northern Michigan to do so. You're not alone, and your voices are will be heard. Four key points I'd like to make. The first is, that Michigan just simply cannot afford to have a catastrophic oil spill. We just could not bear to see an Exxon Valdez here in the Great Lakes. Every day, 23 million gallons of oil is transported through these pipelines on the bottom lands of the Straits of Mackinac. And the Great Lakes, as you know, define Michigan, our economy, our pure Michigan way of life. Great Lakes contain 20% of the planet's fresh surface water, and is a drinking water source for over 40 million people. 1 out of every 5 jobs in Michigan is linked to the high quality and quantity of fresh water in the Great Lakes. Our tourism, agriculture, fishing industries, among many other economies, all require a healthy Great Lakes. Number 2, it is becoming increasingly clear that Line 5 is not vital energy infrastructure to the state of Michigan. Our organization just released a 120-page report with our scientific and engineering experts in December of 2015 that demonstrated that Line 5 is not vital to Michigan's energy infrastructure. The majority of the oil coming through this 645-mile pipeline originates in Canada, comes through Michigan, and then goes back to Canada, making Michigan a real high-risk shortcut in the Great Lakes. About 5 to 10% of that oil goes to the refineries in Detroit and Toledo, and there are plenty of other, shall I?
Everyone has been able to finish, Liz.
Okay. All right.
You will not be an exception.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. And so there are additional feedstock pipelines throughout the Great Lakes region that could supply that deficiency of 5 to 10%. Shutting down the Straits portion of the pipeline will not interfere with the natural gas liquid supply to the Upper Peninsula residents. It currently transports about 85% of the natural gas that's transformed into propane for the residents, because we're talking about stopping the oil at the Straits. Nor will the oil field productions be interfered with in northern lower Michigan. It should be noted that Enbridge has more than doubled its pipeline capacity throughout the Great Lakes, and so there are alternatives out there. Which brings me to my next point, is that Line 5 poses this unacceptable risk to the Great Lakes, and alternatives already exist. We all know, as Commissioner Max Bauer pointed out, that humans and pipelines cannot last indefinitely, and the Attorney General for the state of Michigan, Bill Schuette, recently admitted this in July and last week, and he said, to quote, "We would not allow this pipeline to be placed in the Great Lakes today, and its days are certainly numbered. The Great Lakes are Michigan's crown jewel, and we cannot tolerate an environmental disaster that would forever change them." According to the University of Michigan's 2014 study, the Straits of Mackinac turn out to be the worst possible place for pipelines and for an oil spill. The currents at this location are about 10 times more powerful than that of the Niagara Falls, and this oscillating movement and current is just extraordinary. Corrosion is the #1 reason that pipelines fail, and this 63-year-old pipeline is running at nearly double the capacity it was originally designed for. We just found out last week there's new information from Enbridge indicating that portions of this underwater pipeline, it's a twin pipeline, has eroded by 41%. And related to this risk and alternatives, we know Enbridge has a failed record here in Michigan with the 2010 disaster in Kalamazoo, where almost 1 million gallons of heavy tar sand spills erupted out of their Line 6B, causing over $1.2 billion in damage. And finally, related to risks, the U.S. Coast Guard has indicated and testified before Congress that they are very concerned that they are inadequately prepared for an emergency response plan. And this, of course, is compounded by extreme weather conditions in the Straits with ice coverage, gale force winds, and waves. Finally, the Great Lakes are a public trust, and they are ours to defend. The 1953 easement, this is the legal part of this analysis, is that the 1953 easement between Enbridge and the state of Michigan is held in public trust. And that's because these pipelines occupy state-owned bottomlands. And Enbridge, accordingly, is required to exercise the due care of a reasonably prudent person for the safety and welfare of all persons and all public and private property, and comply with state and federal law. Enbridge to date has failed to honor these obligations. In 2014, they admitted to violating one of the engineering requirements to have anchoring structures every 75 feet. And we still do not know if Enbridge has demonstrated compliance with the emergency response plans and also the insurance requirement.
I do need to ask you to wrap it up, Liz.
Yes, thank you. So for all those reasons, we just urge you to adopt this resolution. We thank you so much for considering this very much. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to make public comment on this issue? Please come forward.
Ann Rogers, 1236 Peninsula Drive in Traverse City. I'm currently co-chair with Greg Reisig of NEMIAC, Northern Michigan Environmental Action Council. We have over 1,200 members, and we totally support this resolution. NEMIAC is part of a statewide oil and water don't mix coalition, of which there are over 23 groups fighting this around the state. So I don't need to go into all the details. Liz has done a wonderful job of outlining it, but I just want you to know that NEMIAC totally supports this, and we encourage you to pass it. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to make public comment? Please come on up to the podium.
My name is Lon Johnson, Democratic candidate for Congress here in the 1st Congressional District. I would ask that you pass this resolution for a number of reasons. In northern Michigan, we have a number of terrific assets, our people, our land, and our Great Lakes. And this pipeline poses an immeasurable risk to all three of those great assets. The risk to our ecology, our economy, our health is just too great to be rested upon a 63-year-old pipeline that has not been independently inspected. Second, I'd like to note that, as Liz discussed, this will not interrupt propane delivery to the UP. What we're talking about here is shutting down the oil that's coming across the straits. So the propane can still be delivered, and it won't be disruptive to the UP. And third, when you look at and consider this pipeline, Enbridge is getting its money, Canada is getting its oil, and Michigan is just taking all the risk here, and it's just unacceptable. And I would ask for this body to join the other 20-plus communities and support this resolution of shutting down Line 5. Thank you.
Would anyone else? Please.
Good evening. Dave Petro, 9988 Riley Road, Interlochen. I support your resolution also, but there's a couple items I've noticed that have not been on this resolution that should be included in it when we start talking about the risk from pipelines. Everything that Liz has pointed out is valid, but there's other things that we need to emphasize more. I mean, this one suffers from a risk of an oil spill in fresh water, and Liz did allude to that. Oil does not, or I think Christine also, oil does not break down the same in fresh water as it does in the salt water. So the BP spill in the Gulf dissipated fairly quick compared to what would happen here. But a couple things that we do not have not been talked about is this also suffers a great risk or potential from things like these pipelines are in a heavy shipping channel. Okay, the straits have iron ore ships and things like that. I mean, you think of the Edmund Fitzgerald, those things do go down on occasion. I was up there at the Bridge Walk 2 summers ago, and we were protesting this pipeline at that time. A week after the Labor Day, a ship lost power and went aground just about a mile west of where this pipeline is. And you think about a big ship, and how do you stop it? Do you let it float into to the Mackinac Bridge, or do you drop anchor? There's something you could hook it onto. So in other words, there is other risk there. Being a shipping channel with heavy ships going over it and things like that, that add to it. If this was a brand new pipe, okay, it's open. Okay, it's not buried like St. Clair. There are other pipes, but those are buried under the ground, so they are much more protected. Because this is in a channel, as was mentioned, where the currents fluctuate, these pipes are going to be subject to some sort of flexing motions. Okay, winds blowing from the east, it flexes to the west. Okay, winds blowing from the west, it's going to, so minor amounts, but the currents are going to move it. This has other risks besides corrosion. We talk about corrosion, but metal is subject to stress fracture. Okay, we call it work hardening. So the only way to inspect for something of that nature would be as if this line were x-rayed. I do not think anybody is even thinking about x-raying 5-mile pipeline. Okay, and we should also always remember that these Great Lakes are ours now, ours to protect, but we also have treaty obligations to the Native American peoples. These are fishing rights. These are their waters before they were ours, so we should include it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make public comment? All right, seeing none, repeating myself, I would move to pass the resolution of support to stop the transportation of oil under the Great Lakes. Is there support?
Support.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Next, we have a second opportunity for public comment. Any additional public comment? Seeing none. Commissioner, committee reports. Commissioner Wheelock.
Just a little brief update. Some of you may or may not know, I've been involved in negotiating the natural gas contract on behalf of Grand Traverse County since 2009. I started negotiating natural gas for my company in 2006 and got the county to start in 2009. We're well under half the price that we were paying in 2008, 2009. But that being said, as everyone knows, the price of gas is down significantly right now.
Yes.
We are paying above what the current price is. So I contacted the company that we negotiated the contract with. You may remember, Chris may remember, that in March of 2014, we entered into a 3-year contract. The current price is lower. I've asked them if there was any way to reconsider that or renegotiate that contract. What I've been told is that they made purchase promises for the contract based on what we were buying in 2014, which I understand. So I asked about a penalty, because sometimes you can buy out of these contracts. And in our particular case, we cannot buy out of the contract other than we're going to pay that amount for gas. But what they will do is they will consider looking at letting us buy gas at the current price, add that to the gas. If we extend the contract, add that to our current price and get us an average. I asked him for those numbers, and I expect to see those numbers later this week or early next week. It was just one of those things I happened to think of the other day. This was the first time we've ever entered into a multi-year contract. But you may or may not remember in March and April of 2014, natural gas pricing was so volatile, it was going up just leaps and bounds. We were able to lock it down, and at least it gave us a number that we could budget for. Grand Traverse County uses, if I remember right, about 10 million cubic feet a year. So it's a significant piece of our budget. So if I can get them to reconsider, I'll bring you back an option that would extend our contract for. I told them I wouldn't be interested in extending it more than 1 year. I wasn't very excited about the 3-year contract in 2014.
Well, to your credit, Commissioner Wheelock, I don't know that Commissioner Crawford or Klaus would remember this because they weren't here at that time, but you did, when you negotiated that contract, you did save Grand Traverse County a significant amount of money. And you are exactly right, the price of natural gas is volatile. And I understand that the gas company does do contracts based upon.
We had anticipated, or when we looked at this in 2014, we'd anticipated that we were saving Grand Traverse County about $75,000 a year by negotiating our natural gas contract compared to what the average current market for that time was. So, it was certainly a viable thing to do. I feel bad that we're locked into a 3-year contract right now because of what the price has done. I'm not completely sure that it was a bad decision at the time. It's just conditions have changed. And I am working very diligently with IGC, our natural gas provider, to try to renegotiate that price on your behalf.
I have the same natural gas company, and I just renegotiated my personal gas contract, so, yeah. Anyone else? I don't see any notices and announcements. We do not have a closed session, so I'm going to recess the meeting until 7:30, which is what time our public hearing will open. So at the moment, we are recessed until 7:30.
Were we in a recess, or?
We are recessing.
Okay,
You're just.
I will pull us out of recess. It is 7:30. We're on to special orders of business, public hearing. Jen?
Do we need to have a motion to open the public hearing?
No, I would say just go ahead and open the public hearing and then let Ms. DeHaan give a presentation and then invite everybody up.
Well, good evening and thank you. My name is Jennifer DeHaan. I'm the Deputy Administrator. And along with Tom Menzel, the County Administrator, we have presented a recommendation to you for the consideration of the merger of the Office of the County Clerk and the Register of Deeds. And as staff, we wanted to take a few minutes tonight to present the issue to you as well as to the citizens that are here and those that are watching. I hope that the information I provide you is valuable. Currently, we're here tonight because the county is fiscally unstable, and we have been for a while. Our revenues have been lower than our expenditures. And as a result, we've utilized our fund balance, which is essentially our savings, in order to balance our budget for a number of years. This is the equivalent to a citizen utilizing their savings account to fund their operating costs, to pay their mortgage, to pay their car payment, to pay their heat payment. And when a citizen runs out of that savings, they have to change their quality of life. They have to change the decisions that they make. They may readjust their thermostat, they may downsize their mortgage, change their house. They have to make changes. And tonight, what we're talking about is making a change for the county. I want to talk about our budget for a minute. Our budget is a bucket. It's a lot of buckets, but I want to talk about just one bucket. And in that bucket, we have money. And when we have a bucket, we also like to fill a bucket with water. We fill the bucket up. That's the expectation. Our bucket has holes in the bottom. So no matter how much water we put in it, it'll never fill up. There's water always come out. It's kind of like money. No matter how much money we put into that bucket right now, it will not fill up. We have to stop the leaking. We have to stop that from happening, and we have to make some adjustments. One of our biggest holes in our bucket is our ongoing pension liabilities and our retiree health care. This is something that has been going on for a number of years and that we now have to figure out how to fix. And we have to make some changes. And it's not something that we can just do. It's something that we have to plan for. We have significant financial liabilities that over the next few years are going to cause changes in the organization, whether or not we control them or someone else controls them. In addition, we have significant costs just on a general basis. Our operating costs go up, whether it's employee benefits, compensation costs, whether it's contracts that we have with private companies. There are escalators within those. All of those increase our cost of government. And as a result, we have to look for opportunities to change how we deliver our services. And that's the purpose of the proposal tonight. And we can do that by changing how we provide the services, and we can improve those services at the same time. We don't have to give up one for the other. And we can be better stewards of our tax dollars. The option to merge these offices only happens once every 4 years. If we don't do something this year, we will have to wait until 2021. Now, I find this interesting because state law usually hinders the action that local government can do. Usually it's mandates, usually it's regulations, usually we have to comply with all these different things. And in this case, state law actually enables us to be more efficient. It gives us an opportunity to do something different. And somewhere along the line, some group of legislators thought it was important that we have an opportunity to do this. And as a result, 34 counties in the state of Michigan have consolidated their county clerk and register of deeds office. At the same time, a number of counties have tried to do this, and they haven't succeeded. And we hear about them all the time, and ever since this issue came up, it's been something that's been a focus, that it doesn't work, it can't work, our board won't pass it. Well, that's the opinion of one special interest group. One group that looks at one issue. Tom and I are looking at this from an issue that's looking at 28 different departments and agencies and how the county operates. And we're not picking on one office or two offices. We are looking at the true vision of the success of this organization. Excuse me. The stage is set. We have the reason and the rationale to do this. In a study that was completed by Ottawa County in 2010, they reviewed surveys that had been completed since 1970, in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, of communities that had gone through this process and communities that had considered this process. And they identified 4 common criteria that were necessary for a successful consolidation. And our county meets 3 of those. And they meet the 3 that we can actually control. And the first one that was identified is that the offices are located adjacent to one another. It's true, here in the county building, we have our offices located adjacent to one another. It may not seem like a big deal, but if they weren't, we would have some significant costs in order to co-locate and to realign how those services are delivered. But because they're next to each other, we have a stage set to be able to make that possible. The second thing that we need to have is staff that can be cross-trained for increased efficiency. We have that. We have staff that can be cross-trained. We have knowledgeable staff and we have valuable staff. The third thing is that we need to have, at the time of transition, on January 1 of 2017, we need to have completed that transition process. We need to have completed the training that's necessary in order to make sure that staff can do that. And we can control that, and we can do that. The fourth thing that was common in these surveys is that one or both of the positions is vacant. We don't control that. We have absolutely no control over that. And I want to say that it is always easier as in an administrative position and as a board to make a decision when a position is vacant. It's much easier to eliminate it. But we can't control that. Again, this isn't about 1 or 2 offices. This is about the needs of the entire organization. So how do we do this? Well, we've identified that the county clerk of the Register of Deeds office performs similar functions. They're not the exact same, but they're similar. They're records management. They're document scanning, indexing, and researching. It's making that information available as appropriate. In order to do that, staff has to have a similar skill set. And that's where we believe that this is going to be truly beneficial to us. Through cross-training, that is essential. And for those that have been successful in this, it is absolutely necessary to have that happen. We also believe that by staff sharing knowledge, we'll be able to strengthen the departments and be able to serve our customers better. And not only that, but our small business owners do this on a daily basis. I enjoy going to restaurants and I enjoy watching how they operate. I oftentimes see that it's a business owner that opens and closes. It's a business owner that washes dishes. It's a business owner that preps everything. It's a business owner that cooks it. And it's a business owner that does the financial management, the accounting function, and the business owner that does the marketing. So if it's good enough for the private sector, why can't we embrace it as an organization? And in order to make ourselves fiscally sustainable, we have to. And this isn't something that's just going to stop here. It's something that we have to be able to embrace. So what are our benefits? Well, we're going to have a greater flexibility to respond. Workload peaks. It goes up and it goes down in each of the departments. Sometimes it's due to economic conditions. There are other things that happen that cause the workload to go up or down. If we have more staff that's cross-trained, more staff that's knowledgeable about this, we'll be able to better provide service to our citizens. Not only that, but this actually benefits staff. Right now, we have 2 very small offices with 2 department directors. If one person is on vacation and another person is out sick, we could potentially have 2, maybe 3 people in the office. If someone else has a meeting and then someone wants to go to lunch, we could be down to 1 or 2 people in an office. And depending on how that workload is going up or down, we have very limited staff. We believe that through cross-training and sharing that knowledge, we'll be better able to respond to our citizens' needs. We are going to, through the sharing of information, through the sharing of knowledge, also sustain our services. No longer will the knowledge be within just a very small select group of individuals, but we'll have that larger pool. We'll be able to actually sustain and share. Cost savings. One of the primary reasons why we're here tonight. We expect that through the elimination of 1 department director position, we'll be able to save at a minimum of $80,000. To me, that sounds like a great start. And the board has already started a few months ago. We've made some changes, and we have to keep moving with that. We also are going to create a one-stop shop. Customers will come to a counter. They'll be able to request a document. And staff, through that cross-training, will be able to follow up with questions. They'll be able to inquire and see whether or not someone, perhaps if they're getting a death certificate, maybe perhaps that staff member will be able to say, you know, do you think you maybe need to file this with your property deed information? Is there anything else? This is actually going to save a citizen a trip home to go perhaps talk with someone who maybe then will advise them to come back. And so again, by sharing that knowledge and cross-training, individuals will be able to provide a better level of service. And last but not least, the decision to consolidate supports the Board of Commissioners' desire to streamline government services and maximize the county's limited financial resources. So how do we move forward? Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to work collaboratively with our incumbent officials. We have to define a plan for the transition of services, and we have to communicate. We have to communicate. We can't do this alone. Throughout that process, we'll look at analyzing the workload and understanding how documents flow. We'll conduct the appropriate staff training, and we will regularly communicate with our incumbent officials and also with the Board of Commissioners regarding this process. We are committed to the success of this initiative, and we recognize the value of our staff, the value of our department directors, and the value of our elected officials. But we need to do things differently in order to continue to sustain our services. So go back to that question of why now? Well, as I said, we're financially unstable. Budget reductions in these departments and others is inevitable. We cannot maintain our existing services across the county. And tonight, next March 2nd's decision will be the continuation of how do we become more financially sustainable. I'll tell you that in August or December, when we consider the budget, we're looking at reductions. That's it. So we can prepare now and make smart decisions, or we can wait until December when the budget is approved, and in January, we can try and figure out what in the world to do. We have to plan, and this is a part of the planning process. We have to be proactive. We cannot be reactive any longer. So the bottom line, if we can reduce our costs in appropriate areas and maintain our services, we are creating and implementing good government strategies. We are starting to plug the holes in our budget. Thank you.
Alrighty. Well, I guess we will open this up to public comment. 3 minutes. Do you have a sheet for them to?
I do. I have a sheet over here because I need to spell your names correctly in the minutes. You could. You could actually come through that door out there and kind of be in a line. I can read the public comment again because this is a new group.
Yep.
Read the rules. All right. Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak.
Alrighty. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is Charles E. Weaver. I live at 3891 Manchester here in Traverse City, Michigan. And I am a small business owner. I'm a realtor. And there's a statement within realty that underneath all is the land. Traverse City and the ability to move land to be able to sell homes and buy homes drives a huge chunk of our economy. I could ask how many people have bought a home in the last 5 years. And I would imagine that there would be quite a show of hands here, or know someone, or somebody who works in an industry that is involved in those homes. And Traverse City's, right now, you can come in and work with these people here in Traverse City, and things move seamlessly. You know, it was brought up by the last speaker, excuse me, because I hadn't prepared a PowerPoint for this, that there's an expected savings of $80,000 by doing this merger. I wonder what was brought into this as far as the basic cost of training, of the cross-training for all these people. If anybody has actually worked those numbers up, as to what that was going to take. On the way coming into the building, on the way coming up the stairs, there was years of awards for fiscal responsibility, I believe it was fiscal reporting, fiscal responsibility. How can we find ourselves in this situation if for the last 10 years we've been winning awards for fiscal responsibility? These holes you spoke of should have showed up over the last 10 years before we get to this point. There are people here that make their livelihoods on the ability to be able to sell property, to be able to research property. The county does it extremely well, the way things are currently. And I really would like to see the numbers and how the numbers were produced to show this expected $80,000 per year in savings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Molly Augustinelli, 1645 Lake Drive in Garfield Township. I appreciate Jen's recap of this whole situation. I also had an opportunity to read the Ottawa County report. There are a couple of things that she left out on that. It says that counties mentioned a perceived loss of service. Those counties tended to have clerks and register of deeds who worked directly with customers at the service desk for a significant amount of time each day, which ours do. And also, when there were either the clerk or the register didn't have a deputy, and our register of deeds does not have a deputy. So just wanted to make sure that that was in there as well. There are problems with that. My biggest problem with this has been that you're taking 30 days to change the whole atmosphere of the county, to pull an elected official out. There's no plan. The only thing I can get from our current administrator is, once we've done it, we'll have a plan. We'll work it out later. I don't think that that serves the people of Grand Traverse County. Ottawa County, you're using that study, they took several years to look over this issue. They had a plan in place before they moved on. They listened to the community. They went out to the townships and talked to the people so people understood what was going on. They worked with the elected officials ahead of time. That's the way that business ought to be done. You may have to cut your budget. I've sat on the other side of those desks. I know you have to make hard decisions. Great. Don't do it just a knee-jerk reaction to a situation. And don't do it just because your administrator comes out and says, well, hey, we can just do this because we can do it. There's no union involved here, so you can do it. No question about that. But I'm asking you to take the time to study the issue and figure out what's best for the people who live in this county. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Casey McBride, 1039 East State Street, Traverse City. I'm with the Talon Group Title Agency. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you this evening. However, that being said, as a title agency, and we are a small company, we rely heavily on the Register of Deeds. We rely on them for not only timely, but extremely accurate reporting of information to us. It is my belief that the consolidation of these two positions would greatly jeopardize that. A title agency is mainly a service company. And as a service company, anyone who has had a service company understands that whomever you rely on to provide the service, every person, every department, every company, every corporation, that company, whatever, is a reflection on you and the service that you provide. with the title agency, we service all 83 counties of Michigan. I have had numerous opportunities to deal with the counties that have consolidated their Register of Deeds office with their clerk's office. As little as 2 years ago, these consolidated counties were 6 weeks behind on their recordings. Now, our underwriters for the insurance company allows us 10 days. We had lenders and owners alike breathing down our necks, wanting their final policies. We cannot provide a final policy until we get back all of the recorded documents. We without a doubt, lost business. We have hopefully made up for that business since then. However, it is a reflection. I'm one of those people that should my small little company go under because we can't provide service that we're expected to serve, I'm one of those people that will have to turn down my thermostat. I'm one of those people that rely on these small companies, that rely strongly on the Register of Deeds. Not only that, but this decision, I believe, is in extremely poor timing. You can ask any realtor, any lender, any title company. We have never been busier. Luckily for us, we are in the middle of a real estate comeback, which is fantastic. But if we have to go back to the point where we cannot get our information timely, efficiently, and accurately, we are going to suffer for that. We will continue to lose business. Is that my warning? What was that?
Yes.
My warning? Okay, that was it. Anyway, again, I don't believe that this is good timing, and I would hate to be stuck with this decision for another 4 years per the Michigan Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Vicki Dell. I live at 10435 Dell Road in Paradise Township. I am co-owner of Dell Abstract and Title, and I do you name the title search to be done, we do it. It's my husband and I, and we also have constituents throughout the state. We cover all 83 counties. I feel that the administration, being Mr. Menzel and Jennifer, and I'm talking more about Mr. Menzel. He's done little scratches here and there, but he hasn't peeled the entire onion all the way down to its core. You cannot, in a month, be able to research all of the clerk's office and their duties and everything that goes into there and their statutes. Same thing with the registrar's office. There's not enough time. This has all been dumped on you, and you're supposed to make the thing happen. Mr. Menzel, through his prior acts and other places, has gone in like a bull in a china shop, and he cleans everybody out, and then he'll figure out something later. Well, I can do the same thing too. We can fire all you guys and get a whole brand new guys all right in, because that's his mentality. But that's not what I'm here for. What we're talking about is turning the clock back to 1954 when this law first became available. Think about the time of 1954. I was 3. So back then, what we have today wasn't even on their minds. In 74, in 78, when some of these other counties did combine, the situation was different. They didn't have the demands of today. We have technology. Technology is the world, and we have to keep our technology up. The state of Michigan provides a technology fund for the Register of Deeds office that cannot be shared in any other department unless you want the state to go after you. Calhoun and Genesee County, the commissioners took that tech fund, did not use it for the Register of Deeds office, and they gave it to other places, and the state is indeed after them. This isn't a rumor. This is fact. The integrity of the offices here are wonderful. Our gals have done such a marvelous job. You ask me, how do I know that? I'm prejudiced. I live here. I work here. But the thing is, I go to other counties across the state. Tomorrow I'm going to be in Alpena. Anybody want to go for a ride? I'll show you what I do. Now I'm going to tell you go over and you see how other departments are, other counties are. We live in the pace-setting county. We aren't, we can't compare ourselves to Oakland. Who would want to? But you can't compare us to Calhoun and Ottawa and Luce County. Luce County is one of these combined counties. 75% or more of the county is owned by the state of Michigan. They can have one person to do both sides and have everybody work fine together because the demands are not there. In our county, the demands are here. And that's the fastest 3 minutes that God ever gave us. So I didn't even get to half what I had in my mind, but thank you very much.
And it's not when you're on this end of it, trust me. No.
We just have to go after everybody. Talking in 3 minutes. That's really hard.
Good evening. My name is Judith Danford. I live at 1139 North West Silver Lake Road. I just moved there in August, so I've had the experience of buying a home. I am a native of Traverse City. I was here before the Parkway. So I have a great history. My father was a local attorney and a judge. I have a great history here. My father practiced and taught real estate law. I have a great history here. And I think that when we look at the changes that are the global changes, and then we look and remember, for those of us who have been here long enough, what Traverse City and Grand Traverse County is truly all about. It's about service. It's about great service. And when I think of the stories about these two departments, and I recall the service that it's given over the years, it's one of the mainstays in the legal community here. We rely not just on, as Jen so aptly presented, it's almost functionalism versus service. We're talking about community, we're talking about relationships here, and yes, we are talking about finances. I strongly, from the bottom of my heart, encourage you, not only on my behalf, but on all the other people I've had the opportunity to speak with since this issue has come forward. I have not heard one person support this idea. So, from the bottom of my heart, I ask that you do due diligence, which I know you will. You are very responsible for that. But I ask you also to take into account, it is a reputation. It is why people come here. I work in an architectural firm in Beulah-Benzonia area. Our clients come here as foundational people who contribute back to the community and have expectation of services beyond the functionality of departments. They rely on the personality and the historical knowledge that goes with years and years and years of working in these departments. I do not support this idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Joel Kassler. I live at 7552 North Long Lake Road, Traverse City, in Long Lake Township. And I just wanted to come today to let you know that I do not support the consolidation of these two offices. I try not to make it personal, although I have worked with most, if not all of the county clerks and a number of the registers over the last 32 years. I find them to be very knowledgeable in their duties and very efficient and effective. I do not believe that the efficiency will be there if you consolidate the offices. The dollar savings can be looked at in a number of different ways. I remember when the state decided to shift the responsibility of the costs of services to the counties and the municipalities. Again, these are some of the burdens that this county has had to bear, and I don't know if the costs involved are being paid by the revenue that is being raised by the offices. I believe that it's probably not the case, and all along when we had the support of the state in our finances, it was workable. We are a large county, upwards of 100,000 people at this point. Our own state house district in one county. That should tell you something. There's a lot of business to be had and a lot of people to be working through these offices, and they truly need efficient, effective service. Therefore, I don't believe that the savings that you may realize, I wish to emphasize this, you may realize it. The savings you may realize are not sufficient to consolidate both of these offices. I've heard the county's administrator in the past, probably before he became the administrator full-time, is that we're paying for the sins of the past. These things were obligations, folks. I don't consider them sins. I consider them obligations, and I believe that they're obligations that you should take seriously and work with your staff to ensure that the people in this county are served and served well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Monica Hoffman. My address is 11786 Center Road. I'm a resident of Peninsula Township. We heard from Jen earlier that the county is financially unstable, and yet I feel that our administrator should lead by example. How can Mr. Menzel create a new position for an assistant administrator, pay this person in the new position over $92,000 a year, at the same time recommending combining two offices and save, according to his figures, about $80,000 a year? There's something wrong with this picture. I'm very opposed. Thank you.
Hello again. Dave Petro, 9988 Riley Road, Interlochen. I'm not a businessman, I'm a taxpayer, and I do appreciate that this commission is concerned about our taxes. But I just question some of the mathematics. The young lady before me here mentioned the cost that we're paying for an assistant administrator right now. The position of administrator was a big issue here last spring. We ended up firing the old administrator, paying him $94,000 to not do his job, hired a new administrator, and the first thing we had to do was to tack on an assistant administrator for more than this $80,000 savings. That doesn't mathematically make sense. Of course, I have to question some of the math because the administrator we just talked, who started this discussion tonight, mentioned that there's 34 counties in this state that have the combined positions. Well, there's 83 counties in the state, so that means there's 49 of them that do not. So there's a lot more that don't like to have them combined. And then also, this is something that can only occur once every 4 years, and this is 2016, so the next time she says is 2021. That's 5 years. So I don't know. I mean, somebody doesn't work the math very well. It doesn't make sense. So we do need to have people who are doing good work. We've got good people. There's a lot of work to do there. We're coming up into an election season here. I can't imagine what this does to have the clerk all of a sudden have to take on elections and then say we're going to do all the other administrative work that needs to be overseen also. And then we're going to cross-train people in laws that keep changing every few months and things like that. I don't think it's a good deal. So we should really, really, really hesitate and not do this. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Nelson Asper. I live at 1590 River Drive. I'm a taxpayer personally and a business taxpayer. I am very concerned that our county is going belly up. We'd be in receivership in the next 2 or 3 years if you don't do something. And you recognize that. Previous administration has been kicking the can down the street and kicking the can and kicking the can and not making tough decisions. You made a choice. You said, we need to make tough decisions. We realize we are in a tough place. You hired an administrator with a proven background of fixing problem situations. And now we have a county hearing, which is good. And if I was one of the people whose job may be in jeopardy, I would try and find all my friends and associates and people that were favorable to me to come up here and talk. I have not heard one person in this meeting say anything but we can't. I guess it would have been, if there had been a public hearing for the auto industry, when they had to go to laying some folks off, doing some cost-saving things to be viable, they did it. I can't doesn't get us any place and never has gotten the United States any place. I am not saying that there's bad service. I'm saying that I believe there's a possibility of good service with less employees, with not having 2 supervisors in 2 small offices as they have been stated. I'm not quite sure how many people are in each one of those offices, but if there's only 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, that doesn't mean that one administrator can't run both offices. As a taxpayer, I believe and I trust in you to make the hard decisions to run our county in an efficient manner, provide the services which I believe can be provided, especially with the advent of more and more computers and technology. I believe that you need to make the tough choices that you decided to make when you brought in an administrator. That administrator should be allowed to do his job, and it should not be, well, it works now, but so we can never do anything more. This country wouldn't be where it is if we took that approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Took the time to write this down and make it a little bit quicker. Commissioners, this current board...
Name, please.
Jason Gilman, 933 Avenue D, Traverse City, thank you. This current board is in the unenviable position of cleaning up what is akin to a frat house party at a local ski resort. The party lasted over 20 years, and the damage is a little bit more than cosmetic. We have a problem here. It is structural, and it's lasting. To repair what has been done by prior boards, you'll have to in some way deconstruct a government culture that has expectations that cannot any longer be met. This means defying staged emotional appeals, becoming unpopular, and showing real leadership. The festivities that left so much damage lasted for decades, yet now you have a much smaller time in which to clean it up. A very tiny time, in fact. You have only a short window in which you can make a substantive change to the way county government is organized. One of the changes, and the reason for this hearing, will be one to an elected position that cannot be undone once implemented, though. Allow me to express a few thoughts on this. First, an organizational table for before and after the change ought to be considered, reflecting new responsibilities and training requirements. Secondly, make absolutely sure that removals of elected or staffing personnel will not require a surprise hire that results in costs of as much or more than the person being replaced. Customer service is important, but professionalism and courtesy is not dependent on staffing levels alone. A change such as this will require that the proper tools are in place to mitigate frustration of those whom we serve. And last, this board must have a realistic expectation of what to expect after the change. including the financial bottom line and changes that might affect other agencies or departments adversely. And having said all that, you brought in Mr. Menzel to do some heavy lifting. It appears he's doing it. Red ink has been flowing in this county for some time, and few people are comfortable with change. It threatens their own jobs or their friends. Whatever it is that you do, you will have both cheerleaders and naysayers. Just do it correctly, logically, and for unimpeachable reasons. And it should justify itself, if not immediately, over time. And I have a copy of my notes if you could pass them.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Good evening. My name is Sue Cortade, 1221 High Lake Road, East Bay Township. I have the Commissioner District 6 and 7 where I reside. I vote for District 7. There's been many comments made this evening that I could rehash, but I won't. There have been many statements that you have all made that I don't need to repeat. But I guess what I wanted to leave with you is that I am going on the record in opposition of combining the elected positions of County Clerk and Register of Deeds. Although I understand the county is in financial distress, the proposed savings does little to offset the problems that we are facing. Both of these offices provide vital services to a community of our size and should remain whole. I feel that Commissioner Crawford has said it best. The comment that she has stated multiple times about putting the cart before the horse couldn't be more true. It does bring to mind the adage that it is never too late to make a poor decision. Please take the time, do the research that is needed to make an informed decision. And if after all the information has been vetted to the fullest extent, I believe we will be thankful that this proposed action was not taken. And please remember, as elected officials, Mr. Menzel works for you. You work for all the citizens and elected voters of this county. And I do know that you will think of this very long and hard. You will do your own research. You will not take just the research that is put before you. And you will make a very well thought out decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Terry Street, 8100 Hodge Road, Kingsley, Michigan. I live in Fife Lake Township. And before I speak a few points, please don't take any insults to what I have to say. I'm just giving an opinion. I'm a retired high school administrator. With that being said, in my career, I faced many budget cuts in large school districts in Arizona, Wyoming, and also Michigan. So I appreciate the county board and the tough decisions that you have to make and that are before you. So with that being said, thank you for serving the county. Thank you for the time and the stress that it takes. I realize that's a factor. But with that being also said, and I hear the plea from people in the audience tonight, I hear the word efficiency, I hear the word service. I sure hope the heck that you're putting that your utmost attention is service to our tax-paying citizens. In our business, it was kids, and we always took a look at the outcomes of when we made a decision, what will this do to our kids? Well, your kids are tax-paying citizens of Traverse City and the county of Grand Traverse. And one of the things I asked you to really reflect on and think about in your decision making, and please don't take offense to this, have you done a really good job of what we used to call in education a budget gap analysis? And that takes a long time. It doesn't take a few weeks, not even a few months. But when you're making these tough decisions, it takes maybe up to a year, 2 years to really sit back and reflect, where are our shortages, where are our surplus, what types of things can we combine. I see where you're going with this. I see what you want to do to save, you said $80,000. I'm hearing differently. By the time you do all the training and things, is it really $80,000? I do think that you need to take a look at what other areas that you can cut. The county clerk's office and the Register of Deeds is a very, very busy place, and I know from experience, whenever I go there, the place is very, very busy, and I worry about the efficiency. One lady spoke tonight about how customers they'll get behind in their business. That's a concern. Grand Traverse County is highly looked at by people from all over. And with your decision-making ability, and hopefully you have taken a close look at what you're about to do, other people are watching. I'm proud of this community, and I know everybody else is here too. So please, please, take the time, reflect, analyze before you make these decisions.
Thank you, Terry.
I'm Helen MacArthur. I live at 4210 Holiday Road in Grand Traverse County. I have a few concerns about what's going on here, and one of my biggest concerns is I think you need more voter input on this decision. Taking away an elected official is very troubling to me. I'd like to have my say in as much as I can, ask my husband. I'm also concerned about what happens if you make this choice. I've heard a lot of the discussion and the idea that the people that we have doing these jobs right now are very efficient, very effective, very well respected. And that's wonderful. But what if they don't run? Or what if they run and someone else gets that job? I'm not hoping for that, but if that happens, you have a person who now, instead of just learning one department and all the regulations and all the state mandated things that they have to do, now they have to learn two. And those departments will be a little chaotic, I'm thinking, if this happens. So I'm concerned about that. And what decision you make, we have to live with for a very long time. It was said that these departments have a lot of similarities. They deal with record keeping and forms and all of that kind of thing. But I have a little bit of a problem when they say that's how you can cross-train and that's why there's duplication of services. I would suggest to people that feel that way that they should go to their cat's veterinarian to have their cancer biopsy. And they might want to visit the proctologist when they need a tooth pulled. They're all in the medical field, so, you know, it should work. I think this needs more examination, and I don't think this board has taken the time to do that. I don't think that there's enough answers in place to make this decision. Thank you.
Charlie Rennie, 4201 Wadsworth in Paradise. Great to be in the chambers again. Main issue I have with what you guys are thinking about doing is you're removing an elected official. Elected official is the voice of the people. As commissioners, you're the voice of the people. You shouldn't be usurping the voice of the people out there. We have a lot of people that are disillusioned with government, feel disconnected. Cynicism is built, angst. It has to do with this type of thing. The number one purpose of this Board of Commissioners is to represent the people of this county. And you shouldn't be taking away people's votes. That's the only way they can voice their opinion. I would be very careful as you do your due diligence going forward on this decision. I think you should think back about the history of the Board of Commissioners. Been going on about 150 years around here. Your mission as commissioners, what you're supposed to be doing, what you represent, and the people, what they are all about, and who are paying the bills around here. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
Anna Mauser, 3150 Brookside Drive, East Bay Township. I'm very concerned with the thought of this. The number of $80,000 keeps getting thrown out there as savings, and I think that that isn't really a true savings, because yeah, you're doing away with one elected official, but you're going to have to hire staff, cross-train staff. Then you have to think about recategorizing positions within the Register of Deeds and Clerk's offices. I just don't see how this is going to be a cost savings. You need to have a plan first and then go with the implementation. There really isn't a plan here. I didn't see a plan in that PowerPoint of how it was going to be done. The clerk's office is extremely busy this year with elections, and that's important that those elections are run properly. If you make this change, it can't be changed for 4 years. That's a long time. There have been other decisions that you guys have recently made that weren't totally thought through, that still don't have a resolution 2 months later. This can't be undone with one single vote. There are things that you guys have done that are unresolved that could be changed with a vote. This cannot. You guys need to take time and thoroughly think this through and how it's going to be implemented and what the true savings are, because I don't think there's true savings.
Hi, Jim Crothers, 218 West 11th Street, and the mayor of Traverse City. The decisions that you make as a county commission affect the city, as do the city decisions affect the county. I'm in this building almost every day. I see the number of people that come to the clerk's office and come to the Register of Deeds offices. These are very important services to the citizens, and these are elected seats. These are the seats that the citizens have chosen to staff in our government. I'm here to say that I support these two departments. I do not support a merger. I've seen the work that they do on limited staff. The Register of Deeds department brings in over $1 million in revenue for you. Similar to the Resource Recovery Department that you cut, they brought in a lot of revenue to run their programs. Why are we cutting programs that actually fund themselves? There's no need for that. We live in a very desirable community. Grand Traverse County, Traverse City, and the region are desirable. Real estate transactions are at record highs. We need these people. You've heard from the business community that are in the real estate business. We need these departments to make these transactions work smoothly. We're lucky. We're lucky we live in a desirable community in Michigan. We're the shining star here in Grand Traverse County and the region. We don't want to mess it up. We don't want to mess it up for the people that live here, the people that come here, the people that choose to work and raise their families here. They've chosen these people and they want to keep them here. Let's don't mess it up. Let's keep our operations running well. You do have budget problems, but don't balance your budgets on the backs of our employees. We need our people to manage ourselves and our government. I'd like to see more people involved. We can't provide these services for free, and we can't expect these departments to double their workloads and make it more difficult for the citizens to get the work they need done from our government. So please do not support this combination of the two departments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Carol Hoffman, and I'm the township clerk for Long Lake. I've been around for a while, so I've had the opportunity to work with several clerks and be at the county clerk's offices, and it just keeps getting better. The essential information that's disseminated to the townships is timely and factual, and we depend on it. In the county, we have about 71,000 voters to keep track of, some of the same voters that have elected you and I. And they count on us to do the right thing and respect them and their needs. They expect efficiency and convenience when they are in need of something. When Tom Menzel comes into our office for his AV ballot, he wants it to be quick and an easy process so he can be on his way. He expects that, and we deliver. Citizens are, for the most part, not lining up to say that these two offices are not efficient. And as the work volume has increased, it's been absorbed without additional staff. I understand that budgets are difficult, and numbers on reports can sometimes be arguable. What I have learned over time is to not change the things that are working. These two offices work and serve you and the citizens you represent very well. And I think that you should really take more time and put a better plan together than I've heard about.
Thank you. May the force be with you.
Yes, we apologize on behalf of Sonny's phone.
That would be my son.
Lynette Wolfgang, 2208 Gross Drive, Traverse City, Michigan. I'll be very short and sweet. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Ann Rogers, 1236 Peninsula Drive. I've lived in this community since the late 50s, and I have seen the efficiency of the people who do the daily work of government at all levels. The commissioners are elected and you come and go. City commissioners the same. But it's the people behind the desk, the people out on the streets, they're the ones that face the public. They're the ones that do their job and make it all tolerable. You know, there's a law of unintended consequences that's coming to haunt you. You gave a tax abatement a while back to this Mercant group in Grawn, and they're gone. So you've lost the taxes there. The TIF business in the city, I haven't heard anybody go to the city and say, hey, we want our portion of the taxes that are staying in the downtown. There's another source. I think that you haven't done enough diligence in looking for other ways in which to save a few dollars. You might start by taking back the raise that you all gave yourselves. You know, there are things that need to be done that affect people. So I do not support combining these. They do affect people.
Hi again. I was here last Wednesday. Amy Bissell, 752 Grace Road in Frankfort. I'm here as the Benzie County Register of Deeds. I'm also the Michigan Association Register of Deeds President. I oppose the combination. I guess you can say I'm a special interest group. I don't know where that comes from. That bothers me. We are not a special interest group. We have a very strong bond as Register of Deeds. Yes, we stick up for each other, but we're not a special interest group. I'll move forward. Times have changed since 1954 when these statutes were set in place. Automation and technology have come a long way with e-recording and online records. Some of these assets that could bring additional revenue to a county may not be a priority for a clerk register who doesn't have the time because they're spread too thin. These are two distinctly different offices, and one cannot learn the responsibility of both and perform well without errors. And you know what errors lead to? Lawsuits. There are over 1,000 statutes between the two offices. That is a lot to learn and a lot to be responsible for. The land title industry relies, and you've heard tonight, relies on accurate, up-to-date land records to issue title insurance required for a sale or to refinance most real estate transactions. By recording a deed, that creates a change in a tax bill. But if that deed is not recorded correctly or does not get to the proper entity after recording, the new owner doesn't get their tax bill, and that creates a whole different problem. There's just so many entities that rely on these proper, accurate, correct, up-to-date, timely records. If this new combined office is to run efficiently and effectively for your constituents, it must be staffed properly to provide services required. While the combination of the two offices may eliminate the salary of one elected official, it will most likely result in the creation of additional county personnel to account for the functions currently being handled by that one elected being eliminated. Peggy and Bonnie are both hands-on in their offices. Where's that workload going to go? If you dump it onto your existing personnel, they're going to be overloaded. There is too much work to go back and forth. Sorry, I have so much more to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ann Manning. I'm the Glavine County Register of Deeds. Our county just went through this last week. We had a committee of the whole meeting. Our commissioners did their due diligence. They contacted 17 of the 34 combined counties. Not one recognized a cost savings. They checked with counties from populations of over 500,000 down to 8,000. I started in 2009, and when I first started, we had a flood in our office, so I had the opportunity, we got moved to the clerk's office, to see the diverse nature and the jobs they had to handle, and I was amazed at what they did. There are no similarities in our jobs, none at all. I am in the process of going through a conversion in my office with software. If I had to oversee both offices, I would not be able to do that and keep on top of technology in our office. We're going to be e-recording in our office, and I am a working official, and you have 2 working elected officials. So I urge you to take a look at that. You don't want to do a disservice to your constituents or have one less vote for your county. We are here to serve our taxpayers. Service is what our jobs are about. And that's why they want to see an elected official when they come to our office. And I don't know if you're a union, but we're a union. And so sometimes it's just, I'm responsible at the end of the day. So. And I think that's all I have to say. But I urge you to just take a look at this. Our commissioners, not one moved forward, not one of them wants to combine, and they really did the research on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Jim Furman, 16093 Christopher Lane, Lake Ann. And although I'm not a resident, I avail myself of the Register of Deeds in Bonnie's office on a weekly basis, if not daily. I title search in 6 counties. 5 of the 6 have separate clerk and register's offices. Meskwaki County, it's combined. It's a very tiny county in terms of the number of filings, the tax base, the number of people. Grand Traverse is by far the busiest of all the counties I go to and very sophisticated. I go to Amy's office in Benzie daily and Dorothy's in Leelanau, and I've been to Joanne's in Kalkaska. I just want to say that I've had occasion to contact Meskwaki, and although they try to cross-train their people, it's really almost impossible when you have people working in circuit court records having to do the stuff that the Register of Deeds do. When I first heard about this, I thought, that's crazy. It's too busy, it's too hard to put them all together, even though they are next door to one another. Bonnie's got awesome records. I can get circuit court stuff from online resources she has. I can get death records, I can get all of that stuff. But the jobs have completely different focuses, and cross-training to me would seem very, very expensive and a burden, and maybe disillusion the employees. I don't know if she would have to hire a chief deputy for both offices and pay more to them than regular employees. I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about Mr. Menzel's office. I've heard a lot of comments about it. Anyway, I would just ask you to please not do this. From a selfie standpoint, they work fine. Don't fix something that isn't broken. Find another way to balance a budget, but not on the backs of these 2. Thank you.
Sir. Anybody else?
You have to excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold, so I'll stand back off the microphone here. My name is Stu Sanders. I'm the Register of Deeds at Newaygo County. And like Ann, we went through this about a year ago. Our register had retired in May of 14. Our clerk retired several months after that. Our commissioners did their due diligence, and we did take a look at how this would function. And as has been mentioned, it is extremely difficult in a modern office to do this. And I do appreciate the comments by the administrative assistant and the kind of the quagmire that counties are facing now with revenue sharing losses and so on. However, we are the face of proper records being maintained. In Newaygo County, we have 42,000 parcels. I don't know what it's like up here. I can only imagine Peggy's got maybe 2 or 3 times that to keep track of. We have over 400 doc types, none the same. There's no standard form that comes through. We see deeds. They do have some state requirements, but they're not all the same. Cross-training that's taken place in places like Cass County, Lake County, 2 of the counties that I'm aware of, those girls and those staffers down there just pull their hair out. It's extremely tough. And as was mentioned by Amy, there are over 1,000 statutes to keep track of. Justin Robeck, the Ottawa County Clerk Register, does not stay in his office. He's putting out fires across 3 buildings all day long, 24/7. They are 3 times the size of your county. They're almost 300,000 people. That comparison is really kind of an anomaly. I would like to say that we're all 83 counties much different than our next door neighbor. And although that some of these perceived savings may be there, they are not there. I'm a retired math teacher. I came in with a surveying background, and my dad was a county surveyor for many years in the 60s. I got black and blue marks from carrying the rod. And so with that said, you can make numbers say what you want them to say. I would just admonish you, for the sake of your constituents, the sake of the records that are on record here, and for what Bonnie does in her office and what Peggy does in her office, please do not do this for the sake of a few $1,000s. There's other places to find it. I know we've done it in Newaygo County. We had to do it the same way. Thank you.
I'll stand back too because I don't want to get a cold. Matt Hodges, 3840 Heatherwood Drive West, Garfield Township. And I won't take long. A lot has been said. I'm certainly not as smart as a lot of the folks that have already spoke. So I just wanted to go on the record to oppose. I'm in the real estate industry. We use both services often, and I would say often daily, not just for myself, but to the folks that we work with title, mortgage, and otherwise. So it is a vital service, and I think if the customer service lacks, there's going to be, I think, an issue just from the real estate side of things, both from what's currently happening with closing disclosures that's delaying us now. If something delays us even farther, it could upset a transaction for our clients too. So there's a lot of moving parts when it goes along with what you guys do from the Register of Deeds and Clerk's office, and we really appreciate it. But from a customer service standpoint, it has been very, very good, and to disrupt that with a potential savings, understand that probably looks great on a spreadsheet, but in all actuality, is it worth it? That's my point. So again, I do oppose the merger. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peggy Haynes, 3706 Zimmerman Road. I'll get it down. I just wanted to point out that a chief deputy is there in the office to exercise the powers of the office when the elected official is not there. So in combining the offices, since I don't have a chief deputy in my office, there will need to be a chief deputy appointed for that office, so when the elected official, whoever it may be, is running back and forth between offices, they have the authority to enforce whatever needs to be enforced. So I do know chief deputies here start in the low 50s. Cross-training in the office, we're in the union. So right there with the cross-training and the chief deputy, you have now overspent that $80,000. So there is no savings. I also wanted to point out, it's just, we printed out a sheet. In my office, we have over 375 customers, which is different from the clerk's office. We actually have customers, and these are people that we get recordings from on a monthly, weekly, even daily basis. This isn't all of our customers. We have the ones that come to the counter and ones that aren't as regular, but that's a lot of clients that depend on us constantly on our day-to-day work. I just want to point that out. There is such a huge difference between what Bonnie and I do. It is not similar. I have land records, she has vital records. Land records may be vital, but they're still land records, so I just want you to keep that in mind. The cost savings is not going to be there, and I don't think it's worth disrupting two revenue-generating offices, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'll speak. Of course, you thought I would anyway. All right, I'll put the timer on for myself, too. Bonnie Shealy, County Clerk. Last week, I spoke to you all about my concerns. I really don't see that there's a cost savings here. Like Peggy said, you're going to eliminate an elected official, but you do need a chief deputy over there that knows how to run that office. Her staff is office clerks, mine are office specialists, so to cross-train, you'd have to get them at the same level. That costs money, too. Ottawa County Clerk had sent you a letter today. I don't know if any of you read it, but he said that as a cost-saving measure, I don't see the decision as being of particular financial benefit to county taxpayers. This is the county that you're using as your model. And then he also went on to say it is vitally important that the two divisions have their experts in the field that know the material thoroughly and are able to provide a better customer service experience through deeper knowledge of the issues. So although he wanted to cross-train, it was very difficult to cross-train because they're so different. I mean, I have circuit court records that are so different from my vital records that I don't even cross-train those two offices. And I've told you that before. I just think that it would be really good to study the issue more. 4 counties studied it, and they studied it in depth, more so than a couple of weeks. And just this year, and 2 of them didn't even go to public hearing. They decided it wasn't worth it to go forward. And 2 of them voted against merging. 4 counties. And so what did they see that you are not seeing, is all I want to say.
Thank you, Bonnie. Anyone else? Anyone else? Going once, going twice? All right, I will close the public hearing then on the possible merger.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to adjourn.
Have we gone through everything else there?
Yes, we've had 2 public comments. We did it all.
Is there any commissioners wanting to make comment in regard to this issue as part of the public hearing?
I'd like to wait until they kind of got to digest everything and...
Yeah, I got 2 pages of notes, too.
We have a couple of weeks to consider this and look into it, and I think that we'll consider it, and like I said, let things digest before I...
If you want to make a comment, you're more than welcome
to. If you'd like to.
You know, the only comment that I would make, and, you know, no different than many people that are in the public, these 2 offices maintain records that are critical to this community both today and well into the future. If these vital records are not recorded properly the first time, we have no chance to fix it. It's just that simple. It's all posterity, all future generation are dependent on the fact that this information is recorded properly the first time. You know, I made a couple comments last week in this regard, and, you know, as most of you remember, I didn't even support holding the public hearing because I really think that this is not even a viable discussion to a way to save money. There are things that we as the county can do to possibly save money. I don't believe that eliminating one of these two positions is the way to do that. There's a lot of other things that we can talk about that make a lot more sense to me than messing up these possible records. You know, if the Register of Deeds doesn't record lot splits correctly or timely, or the sales numbers timely, the township assessors, the equalization department do not have the sales ratio studies to set the tax bills. Tax bills aren't done properly, the splits aren't done properly, the tax bill doesn't go to the right person. You know, and those are all problems that we simply can't fix. And to try to push this thing through, if we in fact had a plan in front of us that says step by step, this is what we have to do, this is where we're going to save money, this is exactly what it's going to cost us, that would be another discussion. But to have this kind of a discussion, to do this today and be under the gun to make this decision within the next 3 or 4 weeks, we simply don't have enough information to make that decision, and there's no way that I can support this decision.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I'm good. Now can I move to adjourn?
Yes, you may.
I would move to adjourn.
We are so adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming and speaking your minds.